and welcome to all the listeners on the Stump Podcast. I'm Dhanush Lavanya, your host here, welcoming to you all to a very special episode for myself, and an episode that I will say should have been done way before the series that I'm currently doing started. But I guess with the things happening in a hurry and the way it panned out in the last couple of weeks, now I felt like it is the perfect time for me to tell out to the world, speak out to the world on what is the reason behind me starting up with this series. What is this series altogether? If you haven't checked my recent episodes, it is a spotlight on sports professionals, is what I have named it as. Trying to make it sound fancy is what I'm making sure with this series. But I will say one thing: it is really informative and really educational, and is going to give a lot of knowledge about some fields out there in the world of sports that is very niche and it has its own market. But the outside world, the mainstream world, or the common casual people out there don't have much of an idea about this. So, in order to give them the idea about this, the Spotlight on Sports Professional series has been started by me, Dhanush Lavanya, here on the Offstump podcast. That is a one short way, a one sentence answer that I will give to anyone who asks me about the reason behind me starting this series. But what all led me to do this series altogether? What was the reason behind me taking this initiative by myself and putting it out there on my media, on my platform, which is the Offstrom podcast, which can be listened by all the people around the world across various podcast platforms. So, what was the reason behind me starting this? Is the topic that I'm going to be covering today and I'm going to be speaking about. Right then, let us not waste much time and let us go into the purpose of why I started this, and let me tell you the things that led me to do this. So, I'm a 23-year-old sports professional myself. I am a sports analyst and a commentator who is signed up with Sports Interactive, one of the sports organizations in India who cover a lot of things, a lot of sports. They do analysis, they do marketing, they do media management, and all the other stuff. Social media management is the biggest forte of Sports Interactive. And there, the brand new introduction has been the podcast commentary, the radio commentary department altogether. And I'm one of the first employees that is working in there in that specific organization, in that specific department. So, my journey has been as a sports professional over the last 18 months, I would say, because I started this through internships. And over a period of time, I got my first job right way before I even got my master's degree out there. And then I had some really good time out there working in some very good places and kind of fulfilling my childhood dream of working and covering the game of cricket in up and close way possible. And I guess the journey that it has been over the last 16 to 18 months is just been magnificent. Earlier on, when I was 18 years old, I remember the time when I decided to do something in the world of sports. I was a commerce student. I was I was into accounts and business studies and all those things. But over a period of time, when I was having my 11th and 12th grade, I kind of got a realization that I can't resist myself without sports being a part of my daily lifestyle. I was not a sports athlete. I did not play any sports regularly or something. I wasn't like a guy who represented a school team or anything. I played basketball for 3 years, but apart from that, I'm not a guy who has been into sports that deeply or seriously. But when I became 18, when I became a major, that is when that decision came in. And I remember going and telling to my mom, Ma, I want to become a sports professional. I want to do some sports journalism thing. I'm interested to do in a journalism degree. But my parents at that time, with hesitance of the challenges that that field is going to be having, and also in order to make sure that there is some security for their child out there when he goes out to the bigger world, they just said me straight up on the face, you just spend the next 3 years, get a common degree that is going to give you a foundation in a way. And I got a BCom degree at that time, a bachelor's in commerce, so that I can back upon that if these things doesn't work out. But I still remember that day when my mother said that you have to just give these 3 years, get a secured degree where you can say that you are a degree holder. And after that, we would give you a couple of years or more, and you can try to figure out your life. And they lived by their word, is what I can say, because for 3 years I gave myself into BCom. I tried to finish it up, and I finished up in a good way. Also, I got a good aggregate out there, and I was happy at the end of the day. But more than anything, I was ready to go out there and explore myself. And I knew in the 3 years span where the pandemic came in and my college had shut down, literally half of my college life did not happen because of the pandemic. And in that span, that is when I tried to introduce and try to make sure to find ways to get my foot into the world of sports. And I remember the 20-year-old self of me just thinking, what if I open my own podcast? What if I bring out stuff, content to the people out there, so that I can just say that I have knowledge about the game of sports. And in that thought process, the Stump podcast, this very podcast that we are doing currently, started back in December 2020. And we are 77 episodes in from then on. And it has been a great journey. Back then, it was a 20-year-old kid who was more like finding a platform to provide his opinion, just to make sure that he had his say out there in the world documented. And that was the only intention of me. I used to watch all the matches that would happen, especially Indian cricket is what I was following back then. And every single thing that Indian cricket was doing, every single match, every test match, every ODI match, I would just make a review podcast or a preview podcast for those series, and I would just release it out there just to make sure that there is some content that I'm creating. And over a period of time, I finished up my bachelor's degree in in September of 2021, and immediately I was into the field of sports. And I remember when my parents came in and asked me what I'm going to do next. I just said I want to do something in the world of sports, and I just want to enter that field and make a name for myself. And fortunately, the very next moment, literally in a way, I got the sports management degree that I got an idea about. I inquired about it. I got the whole syllabus out there, and I just went through what all things I'll be learning if I go on and do this course. It was an 11-month course in MS Ramaya University in Bangalore, and I decided that let me go and try this out. But the catch was, once again, I was one of the first guys to take that degree up out there in MS Ramaya, because we were just 3 students in the classroom taking that whole degree all together. And the first day, I still remember, I was shocked seeing that we have more number of teachers than the number of students. So I was pretty shell shocked the first day. But I remember my lecturers, Raghav Prasad and Shrisha Bale, who was also a guest a week ago on our podcast, came to me and just said, you don't have to worry much. This is how the sports management field is currently in India, where not many people have an idea about it, but it is a booming market for sure, which is going to get its value over the years to come by. And they just said, you have your passion, you have your goal. If you strive towards it, I guess you will make a name for yourself and you will make a place for yourself in this field. And that is what I carried after that. And that is what I carried. I got this course up and I started to go to the classes. I was having a good time. I got to learn about the various stuff that is out there in the world of sports. And the world out there, the casual audience, the mainstream audience, just know the world of sports as athletes coming out at their best physical shape and trying to play their best on the field. And based on their performances, we have our opinions, we have our hot takes, and we are telling out the world that what we feel about that event that has happened, about that sports athlete, about that individual's performance. That is the only thing is what the larger audience knows about when it comes to sports. But there are a lot of other stuff. There is a plethora of stuff that is coming into play, which the world doesn't have an idea about. And I felt the best way for me to showcase that was to do a podcast. And over the last 1.5 years, with me filling a lot of these roles, getting a idea, getting the tip of the iceberg of what each of these roles are, I kind of got an idea that this is a market that definitely is untapped and something that the world out there needs to be having an idea about. And I started up as a content writer, and I was writing fantasy articles, like where I was writing like an expert, like which player you have to bank on, which player you have to expect to get maximum amount of points. I was doing it for volleyball and kabaddi back then, and that was an internship that I started up with, and that internship helped me to get an idea of how the analytics thing works. I didn't know that I was doing analysis at first place, but I was doing analysis of the game of the. I was doing analysis of the players, and based on that, I was writing the fantasy articles and posting it out there on the fan code app. And I wasn't posting it. I was working for one of the companies named Sports KPI that hails from Bangalore, and they're an analytics company, and they have a lot of partners out there. And one of their clients were fan code, and I was writing content fantasy articles for them. That was my first job, writing fantasy articles, writing articles in general. And through that is what the journey started. And then I started to write feature articles for female cricket, one of the top cricket apps, the cricket applications and websites out there that 100% only covers women's cricket. One of the very few apps that does that. So I got an opportunity to cover the World Cup with them, where I was writing articles every day for them. I was writing around 2, 3 articles for them, along with we were doing live stream discussions on the female cricket YouTube channel. So I was a part of that panel as well, where I was brought in like an analyst who used to analyze the performances of the players and make sure that a very analytical but simple way of telling that which player is playing good, which player is playing bad, what are the mistakes that they are doing. I try to keep it as simple as possible in those conversations that I had a year ago. I did for the T20, for the World Cup, Women's World Cup, and the other stuff. So from content writing, I moved into analytics thing that I was doing. So all these things were like internships and were just short term goals that I achieved. But after that was the big move. So with these internship experiences and my course about to come to an end, I got my first job offer. And that is where I got in the form of the role cricket statistician and analyst at Kadamba Technologies. Kadamba Technologies is one of the pioneers in a way of sports analytics in India, because they have been out there for over 20 years, and they have been making doing analytics and other stuffs when it comes to cricket and other sports out there, based out of Chennai. So I got a job offer from them, and they said, you have to come here. We are going to train you up for 3 months. And after that, you will be going to Star Sports to work with the Kannada team out there. Because I come from Bangalore and I'm a Bangalore boy. So I have my mother tongue as Kannada. So when I know the language, I can go out and work with the people that belong to the Star Sports Kannada team. And that is what I did. 3 months in Chennai, I learned my job, and I tried to go and apply it there in the Star Sports office. And that was a dream moment for me, I have to say, because Star Sports has been such a big platform out there when it comes to covering cricket and showcasing cricket. And since it's been the home of Indian cricket for over a decade now, I was really, really happy to go out there and showcase my skills and just have some time that I really, really cherish at this moment. I was a statistician there for the Kannada feed, and I was having a great time, interacting with like-minded peoples, interacting with well experts like the Kannada commentators that I was working with, namely Vijay Bharadwaj, Pawan Deshpande, Srinivas Murthy, and a lot of like cricketers who represented Karnataka and were such big names in Karnataka cricket. Venkatesh Prasad out there during the T20 World Cup. So I was able to interact with these people, talk to them, get ideas from them, learn the sport, and get more into this field of analytics and how to become better when it comes to a sports professional. So in this span, I was being a part of a broadcast team and seeing the amount of people that were there in the broadcast team. I was just starstruck. There was a producer, there was a director, there was a voice mixer, there was a freelancers working in as graphic operators, and a lot of people out there on the broadcasting side just to make sure that each and every frame is being presented with perfection to the audience out there. And I was starstruck by the amount of people working in. And I was having the thought in myself, what do these people have when it comes to their qualification? What are the requirements when it comes to becoming a producer or becoming a director? And I was starting to have these questions at this very moment. And I decide, and then the questions only became more and more as the time progressed. And then around 6 months later, I was done there, had a good journey out there in Star Sports. And then I started to focus myself towards commentary, because my number one goal currently in life is to become a sports commentator, is to become a cricket commentator, and go out there and do the ICC World Cups, ICC T20 World Cups in the future. So that is the plan out there for me. So in order to get that thing out there, I started my journey here in Sports Interactive, where I'm now learning myself to be a professional commentator. And I have a good likes of very like-minded people and some good, talented commentators along with me doing co-commentary. So I'm getting used to this commentary field. I'm like 2 months in now, and I feel myself a bit more comfortable than I used to be on day one. So in this period of time, when I saw these producers, when I saw a lot of people in the Star Sports studio out there, I was just questioning. So many opportunities are there which are absolutely unknown. Because I remember talking to my cousins, talking to my family friends, talking to my schoolmates, my college mates, and everyone were just astonished by the way this whole approach was. And they were like, something, this is very unique, we haven't heard about it, it is very niche, is what the normal answer used to be. And that is the time I kind of realized once again that, well, sports doesn't mean just being an athlete and going and doing this stuff. It is way more than that. And that is the reason, over a period of 18 months with so much of experience and me getting a sports management degree by myself and getting an idea of how many different varieties of jobs are there in the world of sports, I was just astonished that so many opportunities will be available for the world out there if they put in their mind, if they put in their heads, and if they invest their time and money into this, because it is going to give you good returns and it's going to make your life even better. Because one thing that I have seen here with the sports professionals that I have interacted, they work with passion and they invest their time, their day, and whenever they are out there, they're 24/7. One of the important things that a sports professional is he or she is 24/7 into their job. So whenever the requirement does come, they go out there and do their job. But more than that, instead of cribbing of not getting time or not having this, not having that, or job becoming too hectic, I see a lot of passion from these people where they are even more interested and happy to go out there and work. one of the important things that the sports professionals have to undergo is working on Saturdays and Sundays. The corporate culture tells you that Saturday, Sundays is the weekends. It is your time to switch off, get refreshed, and come back on Monday for another week of work. But in sports, it is not like that. Since the outside world, the corporate world, relaxes on Saturday and Sunday, for their relaxation, what they go for, the very first thing they go for is sports or a movie. So, with these two things being so important, and sports being one of the most important and most viewed thing out there, definitely the sports professionals should and must give up their weekends and become more into their job, and it demands that passion. So if you have passion in your life, you will not be working the other day, is what a famous person says, a famous person quotes. Doing something that you love is one of the best things that you can ever ask for. And that is what the sports professionals are doing around me. So over the last 18 months that I have encountered, that is what I hear in common as well when I ask them about their job also. So I was like, fine then, with so much of positivity that is there in this job, in this field altogether, let me try to put some light on it. And that is the reason why I have started this sports professionals series, a spotlight on these sports individuals, sports professionals who are behind the scenes, and they will do all their duties, all their jobs, and they get their share of appreciation, share of monetary gains. But when it comes to the larger perspective, the larger mainstream audience, they don't have much of an idea about what their job is. And that is why the focus of this series is to discuss with these people. And my first question will always be, what is your work life? Because a normal corporate work life says 9 to 5 or a 24/7, where based on the Western timings you will be working second shift, third shifts. Based on that, 8 hour shifts is what the common corporate culture is. But in sports, it is not like that. What is their work life? How is their day-to-day activities? That is something will always be my first question in this series, because the intention is to give an idea about the work life and what the job requires. And that is what I am trying to make sure to give to the audience, to the listeners out there on the Sports Professionals series. So, what all things are there, if you ask me? What all stuff you are going to be covering, Dhanush? What are you thinking of talking about? Well, there are a lot of things. The only thing is there needs to be the right connection. There needs to be the interest from the people to be a part of this, and there needs to be the desire to come out here and listen and give out their experience, present their opinions, and just provide the world that knowledge that is required to be given. And that is why we started off on a healthy note. That is why I had Shreya, a sports nutritionist out there with over a decade of experience, and she shared her work life. She shared her way of work, the athletes that she encounters day in and day out, and the experiences and the journey that she has had over the last 10 years. And now she is a founder and a CEO of Spirit, one of the sports nutrition companies that she has founded. So with these fields that is there, that definitely sports nutrition, everyone knows about nutritionist, everyone knows about the dietitian, but sports nutritionist is a completely different ball game altogether. Like that, she is out there, she will be coming into our podcast in future episodes as well, to give some more knowledge and information about sports nutrition. Likewise, last week as well, Shrisha was there with me, where we discussed about the operations part of sports, because in sports, organizing is the most important thing. And in order to make sure that the organizing thing goes well, the event needs to go well, there needs to be a roadmap, there needs to be a floor plan that needs to be laid out. And that is laid out and executed and monitored by a sports operations manager. And that is what Shrisha does. And he explained his way of how they brought the Davan Sports into existence, and how he worked up and close with Shikhar Dhawan out there in making sure that this organization comes out in a different way altogether and provides sports education and coaching to the young kids and the adults out there through academies and schools. So these are the two stuff that I did in the past couple of weeks. What is there in the future? If you ask me, there are a lots and lot of stuff. First of all, I have a bunch of episodes lined up for the month of August. So I am expecting to talk about sports education, where I'll be having one of my lecturers where he is going to explain on how the world of sports management and the world of sports education is, where he is going to share how the sports education is going to provide a sports management degree is going to provide you various opportunities and how you need to approach it and what are all opportunities, where are all the places that one can go and attain this degree here in India. And then definitely I have a sports tech professional who has developed an app and making sure that the athletes out there are tracking their progress and getting an idea about how they can become better in their skills, what are their pluses, what are their minuses. So sports tech is a big ball game altogether, which can be put into the microscope and can be explored a lot. So I'll be having him as well on my podcast in the upcoming episodes, and then we will look into how the world of graphics come into play, because every sport, if you watch, the most important thing on the screen is the graphics, the scorecard or the points table. So it is going to be important on how that thing is designed, on how that thing is prepared, and how it is being operated behind the scenes. So graphics thing, we'll be discussing about that as well, and many other stuffs like psychology. That is one part of sports that I'm really, really interested personally. And I want to know how the mental health thing has been working, has grown over the years in the world of sports, because athletes are considered as the most mentally strong individuals. And when they go through ups and downs in their careers, how do they deal with that? And how do sports psychologists deal with that and make sure that that thing is done? So, sports psychology is one more thing that is coming up. Likewise, lots and lots of stuff. Sports infrastructure is one more thing that I will try to go and find out, where we can get an idea of how a stadium is maintained. For example, I can go and talk. I will try to find someone who is the manager of a specific venue of a cricket stadium, and how it is maintained, and how the top level management and the lower level management is balanced, how the ground staff is being educated, how the ground staff is being told on how the stuff needs to be done. Then we can talk about various other stuff like sports businesses, how the endorsements are signed by the athletes, how athletes are getting managed, because athlete management is one of those stuff that we don't have much of an idea. The Western world has a big idea about it, but here in India, when it comes to sports athlete management, it is something that is a niche market in itself. That is something that we can put, that I will try to put my hands into and make my hands dirty for sure. But I feel that making my hands dirty in this scenario will only better the listeners out there on the Stump podcast, get more idea about the world of sports professionals and the opportunities that is out there. Likewise, there are a plethora of stuff that will be coming in every Sunday at 12 p.m. here on the Stump podcast. So I will just tell you one thing. Mark your calendars. Every Sunday 12 p.m. my podcast will be on air, and it will be available for you. Every new episodes will be coming in every Sunday 12 p.m. And I just expect one thing from your end, and that is support, sharing, and giving your feedback, because getting an impression is good. I can feel happy. Okay, so these many people are knowing about this. These many people have seen about this, but it will be better if I can get the feedback from the people who have seen that, where they can give in their opinions, they can give in their thoughts and ideas if they have. Definitely, if they want to come in, and if they are a sports professional and want to put their thought of idea to the world out there, definitely they are welcomed out here. if they definitely fit the criteria for me to be a part of this podcast. So I will just ask you, give your feedbacks out there, give your opinions, give your thoughts, and share it with people, because my whole intention right now when it comes to this sports professional podcast series is that I want to do this as a way of giving knowledge to the world. And the only way knowledge is given, knowledge is expanded, knowledge is reached out, it is only done by sharing. So share the podcast episodes that you will be listening to. If you are listening on Spotify, share it through Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts. Every app definitely has a share option. So go out and share the podcast. And you might have someone in your family, in your friends group, in your community who will be liking the world of sports, but don't have an idea about it. You might share my podcast and he might get an idea about it. Who knows? So I would just say that go out there and just try to share with people whom you feel might get useful of this. And that's the only intention, because the world needs to be knowing about the world of sports and the sports professionals that are out there behind the scenes doing their duty quietly and perfectly. And if the industry grows, that it is growing already in this decade, already we are into 2023, we are just 3 years, third year into this decade, and already there is a lot of growth in the world of sports. We were just saying India is a cricket freak country, but it is becoming a sports freak country, because football is growing after the things Indian football team has done over the last couple of years. Kabaddi has been growing over the last 8 years through Pro Kabaddi League. Now all the various other leagues, handball league, volleyball league, Panja League has started, where arm wrestling is also being presented out on national television for the people to enjoy. So it is definitely growing, and it is becoming a multi-sport nation, and it requires a lot of people to be involved. So the only way to make sure that the sports profession is growing is to have people who have good knowledge about the world of sports and are capable of fulfilling their roles as sports professionals. That is the only intention, to make sure that the future of sports is secured and a lot of opportunities that are available are taken. In some fields, there is zero opportunities. You have 100 people for 10 jobs, but here you have 100 jobs, but you have only 10 people. That is the difference that the other fields and this sports professional field is. So come here, bring in the competition and make it more tougher, so that the best of the talents rise onto the top and become the cream of the crop. So it was a good discussion to all the it was a good monologue from my end. According to me, I have given away everything in my what was there in my head out there to the listeners out there. I hope that you have got an idea of why the sports professional series and the spotlight series is going on in this Stump podcast. And I just hope that you have gotten a better idea over the 25 minutes that I have talked about this world of sports that has a lot of opportunities to come. So once again, as I say, provide your feedbacks through your star rating system or through the text messages, and share with the people out there. I'm happy that the listeners are growing over time in the last couple of episodes, but it should be a scale that will go high. And the only way for that is for you to share and make it reach to maximum like-minded people possible. So let us hope that the opportunities that are available are taken out there, and the world of sports becomes even more competitive and even more qualitative. Thank you for listening. This is Dhanush Lavanya here, signing off, and this is the Off Stump Podcast.